And one of the things that I'm wondering about is the extent to which there's a tension. This sounds a lot more verbose than what I'm using. So there's a tension between sort of establishing a new paradigm or establishing critical race approaches or tribal crit or other kinds of approaches and borrowing from traditional organizational theory, traditional in the sense of Western and demonic ideas about organization and policy. And I'm wondering about the extent to which you see that tension as one that exists. Like, to what extent do we start over, and to what extent do we mute Western-dominated ideas, and to what extent do we draw on them? Because I found that, I wondered about that in thinking about your dissertation. Like, is there, yeah, what do we do about, do we discard sort of Western ideas, or do we draw strategically on them, or is it important to sort of establish a really strong set of ideas outside of that tradition in order to then, yeah, does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
So one of the things, just going back to our traditional teachings is nothing is, good or bad, right? Everything teaches us. And so I find with, my academic and my professional work that you have to find ways to connect, to make connections to what works best in Western, the Western, whether it's theory or method. And so, critical race theory sits very well with tribal critical theory. Community-based participatory research sits very well with tribally driven participatory research. I'm trying to find colleagues who want to explore that tension and who want to put forward, I don't know if organically, because it's going to take a lot of testing, it's going to take a lot of different studies and a lot of testing to see how this works. I hate to rule out, it'd have to be really crazy for me to rule it out, but I definitely would voice if I would rule anything out. But it's always that tension is what interests me, because I'm trying to find a place for our voice within academia, within ed policy and leadership. I remember early on in the listserv, I don't remember what folks were talking about, it was ed admin listserv, because I've been here that long that the name has changed, and so has the IRB system. Survived them all, thank you. But someone said, why don't you go into Indian studies? And I went, because Indians are in public schools. I'm standing right where I want to be standing. And so that tension is what makes it interesting.